The morning didn't begin with hope. It began with a choice that could change everything. Before the city fully woke up, two small figures sat curled against the cold stone outside a busy street cafe. The twins had learned to arrive early, before footsteps multiplied and eyes learned how to look past them. One shared scarf wrapped their necks together, a thin shield against the biting air. Hunger was familiar. So was waiting. Then it happened. A man in a tailored coat passed by, talking fast into his phone, his voice filled with confidence and numbers that sounded like another world. As he moved, something slipped from his pocket. It landed quietly near the curb, unnoticed by everyone else rushing toward warm drinks and deadlines. Except the twins. One of them reached for it, then froze. People stepped over the object without a glance, just as they stepped around the girls every day. When the crowd thinned, the second sister darted forward and picked it up. The card felt heavy, smooth, unreal. Black. Perfect. A name pressed into it like a secret. They didn't smile. They didn't celebrate. They looked at each other. The smell of fresh bread drifted from the cafe, making their stomachs twist. That card could open doors. Could buy warmth, food, safety. For a moment, the future seemed close enough to touch. But then one of the girls coughed, a sharp, fragile sound. Both sisters turned their eyes toward the pharmacy across the street, where the night before, their mother had stood quietly, hands shaking, listening as prices were explained she could never afford. Medicine. That was the word echoing in their minds. Nothing else. They tucked the card away not as treasure but as responsibility. They would wait. Even if the man never returned. Even if no one noticed. Even if their hands stayed empty. Because some choices reveal who you are, even when the world expects nothing from you at all. The waiting stretched longer than the cold itself. Morning crept forward in slow steps. Shoes passed. Coats brushed by. Conversations floated above the twins like clouds that never rained on them. Each time the cafe door opened, warm air rushed out, carrying laughter, steam, and the sound of cups clinking, a reminder of how close comfort was and how far. The card rested in the deeper pocket of the older twin's coat. She checked it often, not to admire it, but to make sure it was still there, as if it might vanish the moment temptation grew too strong. Her sister watched her closely, sensing the battle happening without a single word spoken. Hours passed. Their mother arrived just before noon, moving slower than usual. Her face was pale, her smile brave but thin. She sat beside them, pulling them close, pretending she was only tired. The twins pretended too. They were experts at pretending. Pretending hunger didn't hurt. Pretending fear stayed quiet at night. Pretending tomorrow would be easier. The younger twin noticed the tremble in their mother's hands first. She slid her own small hand into hers, squeezing gently. The older twin looked across the street again at the pharmacy window, sunlight reflecting off shelves filled with things that healed people who could afford healing. A thought whispered between them without sound. What if they used the card? No one would know. No one would blame them. It would be quick. Quiet. Just medicine. Just enough to make their mother better. The card seemed heavier now, as if it understood the question. Their mother leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes, humming a soft tune she used to sing when they were younger, when life felt steadier. It was a song about doing right even when it's hard. About being honest when no one is watching. The twins exchanged a look. The choice hurt, but it was clear. They would wait for the man. Even if waiting cost them comfort. Even if doing right felt unfair. Even if the world never rewarded it. Because if they lost that part of themselves, they would lose more than the card could ever give. The third day arrived with a different kind of weight, the kind that settles in the chest and refuses to leave. The twins returned to the same spot before sunrise, the city still half asleep. Streetlights flickered above them, and the air carried the promise of another long wait. Their mother stayed behind that morning, too weak to walk with them. She had kissed their foreheads and told them to be careful, her voice soft, her strength fading behind a practiced smile. The card was still there. Each step toward the cafe felt heavier than the last, as if fate itself was watching to see what they would do next. The sisters sat close, shoulders touching, sharing warmth and courage. Around them, the city began its daily rhythm. Engines starting, doors unlocking, the scent of bread rising once again into the cold air. Time dragged. Faces blurred into one another. Dark coats. Briefcases. Quick glances that never stopped. The twins learned every crack in the pavement by heart. Every sound of the door made their hearts jump, then sink. Doubt crept in quietly. What if he never came back? What if this was all for nothing? What if doing the right thing only made things harder? The younger twin hugged her knees tightly, whispering that maybe the card had been placed in their path for a reason. Maybe it was meant to help them now. The older twin didn't answer right away. She pulled the card out just enough to see its edge, then pushed it back again, her jaw tightening. Across the street, the pharmacy lights turned on. A delivery truck unloaded boxes of supplies, things that could ease pain, lower fever, bring relief. The sight burned into their thoughts. Then, just as the sun climbed higher, a familiar sound cut through the noise. A steady cough. Their mother appeared at the corner, walking slowly, determined despite the strain. Seeing her made the twins rise instantly, worry flashing across their faces. She smiled at them, brushing their hair back, insisting she was fine. But her breathing told a different story. The card pressed against the older twin's chest like a heartbeat. The test was no longer about honesty alone. It was about love. And the moment of waiting was nearing its end, whether they were ready for it or not. The moment finally arrived when patience felt thinner than hope. A sleek car rolled to a stop near the cafe, its presence quiet yet commanding. The twins noticed it instantly. People always did. The door opened and a man stepped out, calm, composed, dressed in confidence the way others wore coats. He paused, scanning the street, then turned toward the cafe entrance like someone returning to a familiar habit. The twins stood at the same time. Their legs trembled, not from cold, but from the weight of the moment they had rehearsed 100 times in their minds. The older sister reached into her coat and felt the card once more, grounding herself. The younger sister took her hand. Together they stepped forward. "Excuse me," the younger one said, her voice barely louder than the wind. The man stopped. He looked down, surprised to see two small faces staring up at him with seriousness far beyond their years. Before anyone could interrupt, the older twin held out the card with both hands, as if returning something sacred. "You dropped this," she said simply. The man's expression shifted. Confusion, recognition, then disbelief. He took the card slowly, staring at it as if expecting it to disappear. His eyes moved from the card to the girls' thin coats, their worn shoes, their steady gaze. "You waited?" he asked quietly. They nodded. He glanced around, noticing the hours they must have spent there. Something softened in his face. He knelt slightly so they were eye level. "You could have used it," he said gently. "No one would have known." The twins exchanged a glance. "We didn't want to take," the older one replied. "We just hoped you'd come back." The man swallowed hard. "Is there anything you need?" he asked after a pause. The younger sister hesitated, then spoke with careful honesty. "Our mom is sick. She needs medicine. That's all. No demands. No expectations. Just truth." The man turned his face away for a moment, pressing his lips together. When he looked back, his eyes were shining, not with wealth but with something far heavier. And in that quiet space between them, everything began to change. Silence lingered longer than anyone expected. The man stood up slowly, still holding the card as if it had suddenly gained a different kind of weight. He looked past the twins and noticed the woman sitting a short distance away, wrapped in a thin coat, trying to hide how tired she was. Her eyes met his for just a second before she looked down, unsure, guarded, proud. "That's your mother?" he asked. The twins nodded together. He walked toward her, each step careful, respectful. "Ma'am," he said gently, lowering himself so he wasn't towering over her, "your daughters returned something I lost. They waited days to do it." Their mother's brows drew together in confusion. She looked at the twins, then back at the man. "They didn't do anything wrong, did they?" she asked quickly, fear flickering in her voice. "No," he said softly. "They did something rare." He explained, not with grand words but with honesty. About the card. About the waiting. About the request that wasn't for comfort or food or warmth, only for medicine. The woman's eyes filled, not with weakness, but with emotion she had kept locked away for too long. She reached for her daughters, pulling them close. "I taught you to do right," she whispered, voice trembling. "I never meant for it to cost you." The man turned away, pressing a hand to his face. Memories rose uninvited. A hospital room years ago, a woman he loved, a promise he hadn't been able to keep because help came too late. He had all the means in the world now, but back then he had been powerless. He turned back, eyes wet but steady. "This time," he said quietly, "help came in time." He didn't offer pity. He offered action. And in that moment, the twins realized something important. Their honesty had reached a place money never could. What followed didn't happen loudly, and it didn't happen all at once. The man didn't make promises that sounded impressive. He didn't speak about generosity or fate. Instead, he made a few quiet phone calls, standing a short distance away while the twins watched, their hands locked together. His voice was calm, but something in his posture had changed, as if a door inside him had opened after years of being closed. Within the hour, their mother was seated somewhere warm, wrapped in a clean blanket, a cup of tea resting between her hands. The medicine came next, placed gently on the table as if it were fragile. Not rushed. Not delayed. Just there, finally. The twins stayed close, watching color slowly return to their mother's face. She smiled at them the way she used to, the kind of smile that reaches the eyes. "You saved me," she whispered. The older twin shook her head. "We just waited," she replied. The man knelt in front of them again. His eyes were still damp, but his voice was steady now. "You reminded me," he said, "that character is worth more than comfort, and honesty is stronger than fear." He didn't walk away after that day. He checked in. He followed through. Not as a hero but as someone who had been changed. The twins returned to school. Their mother regained her strength. Life didn't become perfect, but it became possible. Weeks later, the twins passed the cafe again. The air still smelled of bread and coffee. People still rushed by. But the sidewalk no longer felt like a place of waiting, it felt like the place where everything shifted. Because sometimes the smallest hands carry the greatest lessons. And sometimes doing the right thing doesn't just change your future, it restores someone else's faith in the world.